everyone. Emma here, and we have another great show coming up. As you can see, my friend Rodney here is standing by. He is the president of Grant Central USA. He's also a podcaster. He's developed a system that you and me can become a grant writer like 1, 2, 3. And I'm rhyming for him. He has got this grant writing system going that pros can up their game, or us normal, everyday mortal people can do. He really knows his stuff. I've checked him out. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's helped his clients raise over $450 million in grants. Holy moly smokes. So let's just get started. Hey, Rodney, how are you, buddy?
Hello there, Emma. Pleasure getting a chance to be with you on today. Thank you for having me.
You are more than welcome. And so let's just jump right into it. How did you get started doing all this? What was one day you said, "Oh, Rodney, I'm going to be wonderfully grant writer"?
Well, it didn't quite start out that way, Emma.
Did it really?
It started like most grant professionals, and many of them, if you ask them, they'll tell you a little secret, and that is that the majority have fallen into this, and I guess I fell into it as well. It started for me a long time ago when I was back in Texas, where I'm originally from. I had a hairline when I actually started. So, Emma, this has been a long time ago. But I started because I was working for a nonprofit organization. I was one of like 3 or 4 directors that we had. And we had a contracted grant writer that went around and had a notepad, and she would take notes and ask us about our programs. And she compiled that information, and she went back, and about 2 or 3 months, she would come back and let us know that we'd gotten funded. And I was blown away with that. I was like,
wow.
Got funded? You mean somebody is giving us some money based upon the words you took from me and wrote down some stuff? And I was just so blown away with it. I asked her, I said, "Hey, will you show me how to do this?" And Emma, you would have thought that I was asking her for her last piece of cheese. She was like,
like, I don't think so, buddy.
You don't get back from me. She wasn't sharing any of that knowledge. And I think I was too young and too naive at the time to realize she was thinking job security.
Yes.
And I was thinking about impact. I was like, how can I have this information so I can do even more good? But long story short, I ended up just diving into the process, Emma, and fell flat on my face. The very first proposal I did was a dud. It was for $25,000 for this foundation called the Hog Foundation in Texas. Appropriate name, right? Hog Foundation. So I end up applying for it, didn't get funded, but there was a program officer that worked for this organization who wrote at the very end of my Dear John or my Dear Rodney rejection letter, who told me that if you'd like to come in to discuss the problem areas with your proposal, be happy to do so. So I took her up on that offer, and when I met with her, and needless to say, there were a lot of problems.
It's like, get that red ink pen out.
It's a lot of problems. I was like, okay, now I see why you wouldn't give me the money. But I decided some years later to do it a smarter way, and I eventually ended up going to school, did a master's of business administration that had a concentration in nonprofit management and in fundraising. And I really kind of focused in more in grants. And I had a professor who saw that as I started learning. He said, "You really seem to have a knack for this." And he asked me, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing this as a career, as a professional?" And at the time, I really hadn't. I was still trying to write that grant proposal.
You're still trying to get the 25,000. Yeah.
That was what I was trying to do. So I finally became good at doing grant writing and started getting funded. And I remember that thought, that seed that he planted in my mind. I said, you know what? I need to try this. And so I started sharing some of the information with others, and then they started getting funded. And one thing led to the next. And before you know it, people were turning around and taking the information that I was sharing with them and getting bukus of money. And it was almost mind blowing to me, Emma, because here they are, they got the information now, and they were able to run with it. And I never forget, like, one of the first ones ended up being a young lady who ended up securing like a $400,000 grant within like 6 months after we had the training, and another one for like 15,000. So the stories go on and on. but that's how I fell into the situation.
Well, at least you didn't hit your head as you were falling,
I'm
right?
not sure. I'm not sure. I think I hit it.
Well, whatever you did, it worked. Well, that is amazing. It is so, it's interesting that, she saw the professor saw the potential in you, and said, "Hey, come here, let's go over here, Rodney," and puts his arm around you and says, "Come on, buddy, I'll show you." That is awesome.
I was appreciative of that, and I was just so appreciative of that. So
Yeah, yeah, because you don't see that hardly anymore. Like you said, most people is like, "Nah, this is mine." No, you
yes,
should
yes,
share. Their
exactly.
mama didn't teach them well.
Exactly. Well, when you start dealing with that money, it gets kind of funny sometimes. People start keeping it real close to the vest.
Oh, I
And I
know.
don't really share that information a lot. So hey, let
I
me tell you, long story short, that's one of the reasons why a lot of what I do today, I do because I didn't have someone when I was kind of first starting out, when I fell
mm,
flat on my face, really
yeah.
there for me. So that's why I do some of what I'm doing today.
Well, you seem to be doing really well. So, and like I said, I checked up on you, and it's pretty amazing. A lot of people saying, "Hey, if you want somebody to help you and get the money, go talk to Rodney." Word of mouth type of thing. So that's
Thank
that's pretty awesome. So what are some of the ways that small business can benefit from a grant? Do you have to be a nonprofit to get a grant, or can you be like a regular, you know, business person to get a grant? There's a better question.
Great question. Great question. And I get that question quite a bit because people want to know, hey, are there opportunities for me to get
Yeah.
grant funding? And you do not have to be a nonprofit organization to get grant funding. I like to think of it like this. There's funding, and if you kind of think about it from the standpoint that this grant money is your money, and if you had your own family foundation that had money,
Mhm.
you could give it to whoever you want to give it to. However, the government has some regulations for organizations to give money specifically to 501c3 recognized charitable nonprofit organizations. So a
Mhm.
person can give their money to who they want to give their money to.
Right.
I could right now, if I wanted to, I could give a business some grant money. It could be money that I'm granting them to do something. So there is money that the government gives to for-profits as well as nonprofits. Now, when you really look at the amount of money that's going out, the vast majority, however, is still going to nonprofit 501c3 charitable organizations and to governmental type of organizations,
Mhm.
cities, states, and organizations like that.
Okay, okay, because um, I was thinking about starting a business, and whenever I found you, I thought, let's pick his brain and and see, because it seems like there's all this money laying around, and just sitting there waiting for somebody to pick it up, and nobody's picking it up. So why don't I pick it up?
Like you'd be a good picker up of money.
Yeah, yeah, very good, very good. So they can benefit from, okay, so the nonprofit, say I start a nonprofit and I
Mhm.
come to you and say, "Hey, Rodney, I want to see if I can get, $500,000 for a new building and some equipment and, to help animals,
Yeah.
what, how would that benefit me by getting all that free quote unquote money instead of going to find an advertiser or a local restaurant or something to sponsor this?"
Right. So let me dispel some thoughts about the grant. I call them common misconceptions, and then I'll get into how you would maneuver if you were doing this.
Yeah.
Some common misconceptions that people often have about grants. I would say first thing, Emma, is that a lot of people think that grant money is free money. And I like to think of it in a slightly different way. I like to say that this grant money really is investment money that the government or the
Uh-huh.
private foundation is making a charitable investment into the organization because they want to see something in return. Unlike when you have a for-profit entity that puts their people invest into something, they are wanting to see a monetary only return in most cases.
Right.
Well, with the government grants that are given out and the foundation grants that are given out, they're not seeking a monetary return. What they're seeking is for some kind of way that they want to see the world be based upon this money. So for instance, there may be a private funder who is really, passionate about pets being taken care of. And they may only give their monies to charitable organizations that do that. Most of them are going to want to still give their money to a 501c3 organization because the 501c3 is required to have certain checks and balances in place. They're going to have a board of directors that's going to have to kind of oversee what's going on with that money and where it's being distributed. So, and then they have to file with the state and the IRS. They have to report to the IRS and the government every year. So those checks and balances are there. And because of that, it makes it easier for them to want to give to these organizations. Plus, they're required to give a certain, if they're a foundation, they're required to give a certain percentage of their monies, of their net annual asset every year to these charitable organizations. In return, they're going to get a discount in terms of the amount of taxes that they would have to pay. So to answer your question, the long and short of it, I would say first, look at it as investment money, and then you've got to have something that's worthwhile for them to invest in too. And if you have something that's worthwhile, then you create a way for you to be able to get these funds to be able to do more good. Now, I like to tell people also, when you're doing this type of work, you gotta, as always, you gotta crawl before you can walk. So most funders are not going to come up with a very large sum of money to give to a newer nonprofit organization, because it would send red flags back to the government, because the government will ask, like, hey, why is somebody putting up $500,000 to this organization that's brand spanking new and that doesn't have the capacity yet or the history yet
to need that much money?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, to need that.
So what you do is work your way up. You would work your way up in terms of showing demonstrated proof that you and your organization can handle and has a capacity. So there's a track record that has to be developed, unless you're partnering with another organization that's already well established that can partner with you in that. So there are ways, and that's also what I like to tell businesses that maybe have a program and are ideal, and maybe they don't want to start a full nonprofit organization. They don't want the hassle of having to do that. They may partner with one and do their program underneath an existing nonprofit. The funds will go to that nonprofit, but then there would have to be some type of understanding between the two of what will happen once the monies come in, so that it could be distributed, accountability, and things of that nature.
See, that's why we are talking to you. You are the guy. You are the guy. So nice. That cleared up a lot of stuff for me, because I'm thinking, it's a grant, like the grants you get to go to college. So that's what I was thinking.
Pell Grant.
Pell Grant.
Yeah. There's a lot of different given out. A lot of different grants given out. Yeah. Yeah. So it is similar. It's similar in that way. It's just different in that the application process is different, and then the way you use it. Like, for example, there was a story of a lady who she got in some trouble because she was using the grant money to go on vacation. And I tell people all the time, I say, grant money is not for you to go on vacation and start adding rooms to your house and stuff like that. Now, there are sometimes there are grants that are given out that provide rebates and discounts so that individuals can upgrade certain, maybe if the government, for instance, if the government is wanting to make houses in a particular community more using some of this newer technology that we have for conservation purposes, using that energy saving type of things, they may give and allocate some money in those directions. Because what happens is this, here's how it works in terms of the grant. Money is oftentimes coming because legislative governmental officials are
Mhm.
passing laws. Once they pass the laws, they start appropriating money. And that
Right.
money is going to these different agencies to help bring about something that they want the world to look like in our area. And then there may be a grant attached to it to help that happen. And then an organization could apply for it and then carry out. And then they have to give accountability to make sure that they did what they propose to do based upon the
Yeah.
action. So that's where the accountability kind of comes in. So it's not just free money, just go wild.
Just go wild.
You can't go wild. You can't go wild with this money. You gotta be accountable. You gotta be accountable.
Well, I know a lot of people that think, grant, they think, free money. And I like the lady that was building onto her house, it's like, oh my God, no.
There's been a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that's, see,
There's been a lot of to talk about that,
that's a lot even for me, like, oh, okay. Oh my goodness. Let's see okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. Oh my gosh. So let's talk about your program real fast.
Okay.
What's in it? What's it about? What's going on with it? How do we get it? That sort of thing.
Awesome. Well, Emma, we have a lot of different programs. I'll tell you about some of our different ones that people can take advantage of. We have a number of free resources to help people win. When I was first starting out, as I remember, I told you, I didn't have a lot of help.
Yeah.
So I was one of the ones that, hey, listen, I want to make sure that that's changed. So we have I'll start with the free information we have that your viewers can take advantage of right now. And then I'll share with you some of our other fee-based programs. So
Hmm.
one of the most popular videos on YouTube right now that addresses grants, we have one called How to Write a Grant Step by Step. It's about 35 minutes. It's some of the same valuable information we share in our paid events. And so if you look for that on YouTube, How to Write a Grant Step by Step, and just put Rodney Walker with it, and you'll see it. Over 200 some odd thousand people have already benefited from it. So that's one great place. We also have some free resources to help organizations that may be interested in learning how to do strategic grant writing. So they can go over to strategicgrantwriting.com. Every day, we have a free training that helps to show what that looks like. Some may be interested in becoming a grant writer, and I would point them over to becomeagrantwriter.com. And
Hmm.
that's another free training that provides some valuable insight and information. I know that there's some people that are doing faith-based grant writing, like churches.
Yeah.
They'll go over, you can come to our main site, and I'll just show you, if you go to our main site, which is grantcentralusa.com, on our main site, there's a link that says webinar. And if you click that, we have about 7 different free webinars, depending upon your area of interest, whether you're doing grant writing for your church or for your city government, or if you're trying to become a grant writer. And if you're already a grant writer and you're trying to make more money in this industry, we have one called the 6-Figure Grant Writing Business. So many different free resources to help there. There's a very active blog there as well. We also have free podcasts that you can check out also. So all that content that I've just made mention is absolutely free and designed to help people learn more about how grants work and how they operate. Now, in addition to that, we have monthly fee-based trainings every month, and our online grant writing training is a 2-day event where we help people to learn grant writing in just 2 days. So if you have a nonprofit, governmental entity, or if you're looking to do this as a business and go after some grant funding and maybe partner with a nonprofit, that 2-day training is an event that you can sign up for. And once you sign up for that, you automatically get a 1-year membership into our Grant Writers Association, which basically means that we're going to be working with you, not just for those 2 days, but we'll be committed to working with you over the course of an entire year, which is 12 additional master classes, plus a lifetime membership into our International Society of Grant Writers that has a meeting twice a year that keeps you abreast of all the things that are taking place in the industry, trends internationally as it relates to grant. So it's a really cool, fun way for those who are serious about going even deeper, for them to be able to do so as well.
Wow, that's a lot. That's amazing because, like I said, years ago, I was thinking about trying to get a grant, and a friend of mine said, "Well, go to the government website, and .gov."
Yes.
USA.gov thing, and there's grants, that you can apply for. That's like 20 pages of grants,
Yes.
different stuff. And I mean, for agriculture and churches, and, my head was going,
I understand. Billions of dollars are given out every
yeah,
year.
yeah.
Billion.
And it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, it's wonderful that it's there, but if you don't know how to maneuver, you get lost. So that's why people go to Rodney's website. Sorry, I called you Randy. I'm sorry.
No worries, no
You look
worries. You
like a
sound like my
Randy.
grandmother. But hey, listen, my grandmother's name is Emma, and she,
Oh,
she's,
really?
but her name is Emma. So the last podcast I did, the lady's name was Shirley, which was my mother's name. So I got an Emma and a Shirley, but my grandmother Emma used to call me Running. So you kind of remind me just when you said that.
Well, I was named after my grandmother, who was Emma. So there you
Oh
go. Yeah.
wow,
So
very
there you
nice.
go. But I mean, this is just fascinating. I mean, we could go on for an hour and hours and hours, but we are out of time, unfortunately. And I mean, you have just touched on a lot of the stuff that you're going to have to come back and talk more about this.
Honored to be honored to. Just let me know when. I'll be
you
happy
know
to connect with you.
and we'll dig a little bit deeper and see what happens, but let people know one more time your website and all this stuff, and then we will call it a day.
Awesome. You can meet me over at grantcentralusa.com. That's grantcentralusa.com. And be sure when you come by to let me know that you heard from me, from our new friend Emma around here. And we're going to throw in a special just for you, just for coming because Emma referred you. Okay. We got an extra little bonus gift that we're going to throw in if you decide to come and hang out with us. So Emma, thank you so very much for having me on your show today. It's been an honor getting a chance to meet you and also to be on your show.
Well, it's been an honor to meet you, Rodney. And like I said, you are welcome anytime. And thanks for that little, bonus there. That is awesome. You are amazing. So I want to thank you one more time. And everybody, go to Rodney's website, check everything out. If you got any questions, tell him I sent you. He'll do you good. All right. We'll talk
Thank
to you
you,
soon, Rodney.
Bye.
Bye bye.